Hello, welcome to Diminishing Returns. We're back on Bond this week. So, Saul, Alan, are you guys ready to dance into the fire with me and talk about A View to a Kill?
God.
Dance into the fire.
That theme we came into, of course, was by the wonderful Tomo Fallows.
Oh, good, yeah.
And thanks to Tomo for doing our Halloween theme as well. He sent us that. Well, I found the email very last minute, so I don't think we actually credited him in the episode.
I did mention it in my outro, yeah, I did.
Oh, cool.
But not in the episode.
I'm not
He
listening.
messaged me recently. Someone claiming to be him did anyway.
Some so-called Tomo Fallows.
But yeah, no, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And talented.
But, yeah, themes. Music. It's a good one in this film, isn't there?
I wondered if you'd like this one.
I'm jumping ahead of myself. Who am I? What's going on? What is this? Where am I?
Well,
we can talk about
I'm
the theme song.
Well, let's introduce ourselves first.
Oh right, yeah.
So hello, I'm Alan. With me, as always, is the spry young 20-something Sol Harris.
Hi. All right.
And the decrepit, old, broken down 30-year-old Calvin Dyson.
Now I know how you feel, Alan. I'm just gonna hate on everything we talk about from now on and come out with confusing, strange opinions about things that you would expect me to dislike.
Yeah. We just had one of those. We just recorded one of those before this.
You have to become a Patreon to hear that one.
I am.
Calvin, you're 30 years old now, big boy. And dare I say, you've turned into a right handsome wee bastard as well.
Oh, really?
I watched a video on your YouTube channel. Coincidentally, it was a review of A View to Kill, and it's from about 6 years ago, I think it was. And I was like, I barely even recognise this young man. Who is this?
Oh, really?
Who
has crooked teeth.
Yeah, it's very odd teeth.
Very
and
gangly.
Of course, I don't know if the camera was as good. The camera adds £20.
Are you going anywhere with this?
No, just
Okay.
No, just genuinely, I did watch this video and it was 3 years old, and I was like, that doesn't even look like Calvin. He looks so young and childish.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
But I have been the reason I mentioned your looks, Calvin, because obviously you've recently taken up a part-time job as a knitwear model.
Oh, right.
So obviously the looks are paying off.
This is very good and everything. This little stand-up routine Alan's trying, but it's a very insular audience it's playing to.
Yeah, but it is an audience that'll be listening to this episode, so I think that's all right.
Yeah, actually, fair point.
I just don't know where you're going. I'm waiting for...
That's it. What? I loved your,
loved
your little jumper. It was nice.
Yeah. I can't remember if this happened on air, but I remember the last time we recorded, I can't remember if this was a recorded thing or not, but we were talking about the James Bonds and sort of the level of which the likelihood is that I will get a chance to meet them. And I can't remember if we recorded this or not.
Q&A, maybe?
Oh, possibly, yeah. It might well be, but I remember at one we were talking about accessibility, who's gonna, and I think Saul, you were the one that said Pierce Brosnan will happen one day. You'll, that'll happen.
It's because you're saying you'd met Roger Moore, hadn't you? And so
yes. Did you see my video about my Iceland trip where he was there?
No,
I have. I saw it.
Yeah, he was there. In the Blue Lagoon, we went to the Blue Lagoon spa, and just Pierce Brosnan was there.
Oh.
At the spa at the same time. It was nuts.
That's cool. Did you get him to record an intro for the podcast?
Did you get him to touch you in the showers?
No, but we were in a pool together at the same time. Well, me and my partner and his wife, just the four of us. But I didn't say anything. I was too nervous.
Do you see his penis?
No.
They were covered in mud. It's one of those spa things. Was he wearing little swimming shorts? Was that all he had on?
I don't know. I only saw him from the waist up.
Was it like Halle Berry coming out of the water?
It literally was. Yeah. It really was. It was quite something.
I wanted to ask Calvin. I watched your video, available on YouTube, Calvin Dyson Bond Reviewer. I watched your video talking about your Pierce Brosnan adventure. And so you walked into the spa place and you see this sort of trampy looking beard man on at the bar. And you were like, oh yeah, I think that's Pierce Brosnan. So there was a slow realization of like, oh my God, that actually is Pierce Brosnan. I just wanted to ask, was there at any point in that sort of period where you were thinking, has Arnis set this up as a 30th birthday surprise? And it's like, he's here to see me?
It flashed across my mind momentarily.
Until Arnis went, who the fuck's like, Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah. Until that. Let's just go in the water. He could not care less, really. He was so uninterested in the whole thing.
Was it just completely random? Or was it like, oh, this is we're going to this place that we know that Pierce Brosnan likes. I saw it on his Instagram once.
No, completely random. Like, and saw him twice as well, which was like the first time was just like when the receptionist was like showing us around the thing, and we just walked past the bar, and there was just this guy sat by himself, and I was like, looks an awful lot like Pierce Brosnan, and then I just kept looking back, and then we made eye contact. I was like, oh my God, it is Pierce Brosnan. But then he was, we were being shown through to the changing rooms then, so we went through to the changing rooms, and I was, to Arnis, just like, my partner, oh my God, I think that's Pierce Brosnan out there, and he just didn't really care. And then we went out, we got changed and went out, and then he was gone, so I was like, oh well, I'll never know, never mind. And then later on, we were just like swimming around in the pool, and then we turn, look up, and he's like right there. That was, yes, confirmed it.
Wow, there you go. So did you actually meet him?
No. Well, we were both half naked. Didn't?
Oh, so you still got a ticket off then?
Yeah. We made eye contact, and he probably knew by making eye contact with me that I was some kind of crazed fan who was just like
clamming. He probably knew who you are. He was probably terrified. He was like, oh God, I've seen that kid online. Has he really followed me here? For fuck's sake!
Yeah, he has his PA keep an eye on the real mental ones, just in case. I thought you took great self-control in not approaching him when he was on his private holiday. Well done.
Yeah, very good of you.
Because it would not have ended well. You would have just been really weird, and he would have been creeped out. You probably got thrown out of the place.
It was best just to leave it be.
Yeah.
Did you try and like manufacture some situation where you would have to talk to him, like, oh, could you pass me that thing over there, please, or whatever? Like anything. Any reason to go?
Can we do a test? Can we do like a role play? Like if you were going to approach him, Calvin, how would you?
Wait, which one of us is going to be Pierce Brosnan?
Okay, I'll be Pierce, and you can be his wife, Alan.
Okay. Right, I'll do some splashing sound effects that you can edit into.
Calvin, is Pierce Brosnan's wife? Has she got an accent? Just so I know.
Oh, you know what? I don't actually know.
Just pick one.
Okay, she's Nigerian. Okay.
Oh God.
What's Pierce Brosnan's accent? What goes on in this town is none of your business. It's like that kind
of. Right, his wife is American.
American. Hey.
Yeah. She did actually say hi to. Arnis said. I think she said hi first, and then because we were going past, and he said hi.
You could have claimed you were like some washed-up boy band star. They wouldn't know. If you're in the VIP area, you could be. Oh yeah, I was very big about 8 years ago. Made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You ever hear that song Mbop? I did that.
I reckon you could have just said you were Justin Bieber, and he probably bought it.
Probably. Okay, right. I'm splashing over to you.
Terrifying.
Hi, Pierce. I just wanted to say I'm a really big fan of your work.
Maybe you shouldn't be swimming here!
All right, I'm role-playing as the security guard.
You should say
you
that.
Can't talk to him. Get out of the pool. You're thrown out.
Because there was there was a bit, just in answer to Alan's question about like if there could have been a situation where we could have manufactured. There was a moment when after I'd sort of said to myself like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. We're just going to go on with our day. They don't let you take phones in, but if you want to have photos, and obviously we wanted to have a photo of ourselves in there, you can ask one of the staff to come out with their phone, and then they take a picture and we transfer it to you. And as we were having photos, they start swimming by in the background. And in my head, I'm sort of like, is this going to be like one of those, like, you know, Bill Murray sort of situations where he's going to, like, see a camera and just be like, you know, photo bomb or something? But he didn't. And, and then the security guard came over to the lady taking the photos and was like, oh, yeah, you really can't, get a photo. Do you know who that is? And she was like, oh, yeah, no, right. So we had to have photos around them swimming by in the background. But then I was nervous because I thought, oh God, does Pierce think that I have selected this spot to have a photo in the hope that he might swim by in the background? But we'll never know.
What you should have gone with is something like, I just wanted to say, I'm an absolutely huge fan of My Father Die. Or what's some other obscure, like, I mean that's his
Ghost,
son, isn't it?
Ghost, what was it called?
That was one that I was actually thinking about.
you want the failed like vanity project that he produced. Has he done one? Has he ever written and directed
Evelyn?
Anything? Yeah,
Evelyn.
I just want you to know, Pierce, I'm a huge fan of Evelyn. Loved it.
Didn't get the respect it deserved.
Yeah.
Keep on trucking, son.
but you approach him kind of like, make yourself look like a James Bond fan as much as possible, so he goes, oh, for God's sake.
What, like swim over to him going dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
you have to try and be a bit more butch, Calvin.
Swim over to him in a wetsuit, but then open it up and you're wearing a tuxedo underneath.
And going,
But anyway, you know who's not in this film that we're
Pierce
talking
Brosnan.
about today? Yeah.
Yes, if you want to know more about Calvin's story, then go to Calvin Dyson Bond Review on YouTube, sponsored by Lovely Jumpers.
Who is in this film?
Roger Moore, of course. I mean, not that you'd be able to tell. He looks
you have
so
met him as
different.
well, right?
Yes.
So how did the experiences compare?
Well, it was a
Who
different
smelt
sort of
nicer?
thing. Roger.
Really?
Does
Well, the spa,
Pierce
all
was in a
I could
spa
smell was
at the
sulfur.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Pierce
you
Brosnan,
a quick
so-
question, Calvin? Does Pierce
Yes.
Brosnan have a lovely thatch of silver chest hair?
It was darker, I think.
I think he
I can't
dyes
really
it.
remember. But it's sort of like, what's it called? Pepper something,
Salt
isn't
and
it?
pepper.
Salt and pepper. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, he's a very handsome, striking man.
Ooh.
Tall,
He
too.
strike you only with an open hand.
I wish.
Okay, so stop talking about Pierce Brosnan.
Have any of us ever met Christopher Walken?
No.
Grace Jones?
Right, so...
My first note, actually, Calvin, was surely this has to be the last Roger Moore one. Surely.
Oh, no, he makes another two.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm kidding. This is the last one. Yeah, so he had some cosmetic surgery in between films, which is why he looks so alarming here. Did you notice a difference, actually? Like, I'm particularly interested in Sol's opinion on this, as I think the most casual out of the three of us when it comes to these films. Did you notice a difference in how he looked?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, he had a mole removed and his eyes tucked, I think. So he definitely had a facelift. And it did sort of the opposite thing though, and made him just look really old.
Yeah.
But only 2 years had passed from the previous one, and I think in Octopussy he was fairly all right. But here they seem to just be manufacturing the entire film around like him and his age, just like going up against this new young villain and Grace Jones and the Bond girls. Like
Christopher Walken, the young villain.
Back then he was.
He was about 48 then.
1985. Was he?
I don't know. Well, hang on, that's 34 years ago. He must be.
Oh Christ, yeah.
Must be in his
42.
70s now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 76 now, so he would have been...
Not exactly a spry young man, was he?
Well, that's saying something then, if he looks young compared to Roger Moore. Yeah.
I mean, do you want to know what my first note for this film is?
Yes.
Skiing opening. Haven't I already seen this one? And then second note,
yes.
Isn't this the spy who loved me?
And recall.
And I was genuinely, I'm not just being like funny. I genuinely thought, have I put the wrong film on?
Yeah, no, they have another ice opening to this one, but it doesn't have a Union Jack parachute at the end. It just has that little iceberg submarine.
The Beach Boys song over the skiing came on, and then I made the note: have I put Spy Hard on by mistake?
It was such a terrible choice, because not only is it like, oh look, he's snowboarding. What's that like? Kind of like surfing, I suppose. What do we know about surfing? It was just like such a 80-year-old man trying to make a joke, kind of, about the young people of 20 years ago. It was just, the Beach Boys are 20 years out of date by this point. The song doesn't flow into the scene nicely. It doesn't fit anything. It's such a terrible choice on all levels.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not going to complain there. And again, it just does. It's this sort of confounding. You just got this obviously. Roger Moore is only 57 when he's filming this, but I think he looks much older. It's and then he's obviously being filmed on a back projection. He's obviously not there in the Arctic. Throughout
the whole film, it really did not play well any time Roger Moore had to move. It didn't work because it was always back projection.
When he's standing still and sitting down, that's fine. But as soon as he has to, even when he's running up the steps of the Eiffel Tower later on, and he just looks out of breath, in real life, he just looks like it was probably a bit much for him. Yeah. Anyway, and then he gets on that little iceberg submarine thing, and there's just some Miss World in there waiting for him, and it's just really, unpleasant.
Just classic Bond, though. I mean, my note was does he have to be condescending to every woman he meets? Just the way he talked to her. She's your getaway driver at the very least. She's obviously on the job, so to speak. So treat her with a bit of fucking respect.
Didn't he say something he said something it's 3 days to
5.
wherever it is they're
going. 5. I made a note of that. I can imagine spending 5 days with fucking James Bond in a little thing like that. Even if you enjoyed shagging him, it'd still get on your nerves pretty quickly, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, the opening is...
rubbish.
Unremarkable.
Oh no! Well, I was going to just talk about the plot, but he has to find the body of another 00 agent to recover a microchip, which is going to be analysed by his colleagues back in London. But we're all agreed that this is a very poor start to the film, very cheap-looking action sequence.
But then we get to the opening credits sequence, and it's great. Fucking loved it.
The song.
Well, all of it. It was
I don't like the song. I have to say.
It's a great song. It's a fantastic song. This is a song I like just in general. This is a song I just listen to quite regularly anyway.
It's such a crap 80s song. It's not even a
it's
good
a fucking great
Duran
80s
Duran
song.
It's...
Yes, it is. Duran Duran are fucking great. This is one of the good songs. Alan's wrong. And and this opening sequence was just it was just classic Bond. This is what I want from a James Bond opening sequence. And I sat there and watched the opening credits, and then it finished, and I realised I just sat and watched an entire 3.5 minute song from start to finish, and I hadn't even got bored, hadn't even noticed it. So that was good.
Oversea, could it be the whole of opening wide? A sacred wine, a mystery gaping inside. The weekend's wine until we dance into the fire. That fatal kiss is all we need.
We should add, actually, this is the first time I've watched a James Bond film on this podcast that I haven't seen before. This is the first time I've gone into one with, like...
Oh, interesting.
As a virgin.
Just on Duran Duran, do you know how they got to do this song in the first place? Like, how it sort of started?
They had
No.
the same cocaine dealer as Cubby Broccoli, and they met.
Hey! Oh!
Oh!
They're slander or libel. I forget which way round.
Is Cubby Broccoli was Cubby Broccoli alive at this point? When did he die?
Yes, no, he's still producing at this point, yeah.
When did he die? Between Dalton and...
97, I believe.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was there for the first Pierce Brosnan one and then died during the second one, I think.
Fair enough.
But yeah, apparently, one of the members of Duran Duran, I can't remember which one it was, they were like, they were at a party and Cubby Broccoli was there and they went up to him and said, when are you going to get someone good to do one of the theme songs for a Bond film?
And he said, definitely
So,
not for A View to a Kill. Do you want to do it?
Hey! We tried that with that Blondie song, and I didn't like it.
Anyway, that's how they got the gig, apparently.
That's what you should have done with Pierce Brosnan.
It's the first official Bond theme that I really love.
Oh, I hated it.
Cool.
Shit.
Yeah, but Alan, you don't like
I'm
music.
a fan.
That's true.
Anyway, when's your next note? Because otherwise I'd just run through the film.
Well, do you want my broad strokes opinion on this film in a nutshell? Like not quality, but just what I took away from it.
Okay.
This is the first James Bond film that feels modern, like a contemporary film. All the other ones I've watched have felt like a real throwback to some... You kind of have to go, oh, bless them, and take it on their own level. This is the first one I've sort of watched and thought, oh, this kind of feels like a film you might just watch for fun.
I think if you just showed me this blind and asked me to sort of place it, I'd probably put it mid-70s rather than mid-80s.
I'd go 80s. I'd go early.
Well,
80s,
take out Duran Duran, obviously, from that.
I still go 80s. I just think how it's filmed and edited and all that sort of stuff, it just felt contemporary in a way that these films haven't so far.
Can't say I'm completely convinced of that. I think I know what you mean, though. It's starting to lose a little bit of that kind of gentleman's club feel to like MI6.
Yeah.
And I appreciate there's no women in it still, but it's just like that kind of very like, oh, come along, Bond, we've got to do this. I mean, I know it's still there, but it's concentrating more on like, let's get out there, do some action, and have a bit of plot. And so we start with Bond in M's office, and I wanted to ask, is this a new M? Because he just seemed so charmless and boring. I remember him being more than that.
He was in the last one. It's an actor called Robert Brown, who was in a Bond film, actually, previously. He played Admiral Hargreaves, who was a government sort of body in The Spy Who Loved Me. And then Bernard Lee, who played the original M, died after they filmed Moonraker, and then they didn't have M in the next film, and then they had this Robert Brown guy come in. But I think it's uniformly agreed that he is sort of the... what's the word I'm looking for?
Crap M?
Least impactful.
Yeah, that was it. It was just really charmless. That was the word I used in my notes. It was just like...
I think the M's usually like Bernard. When you look at Bernard Lee and Judi Dench, it's like they're quite tough with Bond. They feel like sort of parental figures, and I don't know if it's just because Bond is old now, probably the same age as M in this one, but there's no kind of authoritativeness to him or anything. It feels more like just colleagues, and I think like especially when all of MI6 go to the races and it's just all these like 50-year-old people all look the same, all grey-haired, suited up, because you got Patrick McNee and then Q and Moneypenny. This is the last one with Lois Maxwell as Moneypenny.
Oh yeah. She to retire and get a pension.
She wanted to play M, I think, after this, is what she says, but they didn't go that way.
It's a bit of a jump up for a secretary, isn't it? It's not how it works.
But this is the last one with her, and then they recast in the next one, and she's been in the most Bond films up to this point.
Quick question, Calvin. Do you think they could get away with like saying have a, for example, Pierce Brosnan become the new M?
As in like bringing a former actor to play the part.
Yeah, and not mention it, not like go and he's a former Bond, he's been promoted. Hey, get it? But just like, is it the same actor playing a different character, or is it the same character, and just really annoy everyone?
Yeah, well, I mean,
do that?
Kind of do that with this guy, even though he was a minor character in The Spy Who Loved Me. They never really sort of confirm whether he's supposed to be playing the same character as the other guy, or whether the other guy, moved on and then this guy's a new one. I don't think they would ever cast a former Bond in a part, because I think it'd just overshadow everything else.
Yeah, I think it would be too distracting, wouldn't it? But,
Yeah.
Weren't they originally planning to cast Sean Connery as Daniel Craig's dad?
In Skyfall, there is an old guy played by Albert Finney, and the rumor was that, that part was sort of written for Sean Connery. But that would have been really weird. That would have been very, very strange.
The other thing I thought in this scene was a robot dog. This is a new low even for Bond.
Yeah, what did you think of that? Because doesn't Rocky have a robot in one of the Rocky films?
Yeah.
I was wondering if they were of the same sort of era, like... Yeah.
1985.
This feels like actually for Bond realistic. Like this is a realistic kind of little remote control robot thing, whereas the one in Rocky 4 or whatever it is like a housekeeper.
Yeah, it's like full-blown artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and has emotions and bonds with the child.
It's like, I did your taxes for you while you were away.
Paulie, please stop drinking.
Whereas this one is...
How come we always talk about you?
Whereas this one is really just like a camera on a remote control camera, really, isn't it?
Yeah, this feels completely realistic. The sort of thing they send into like bomb disposal and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I don't know how legit it was for 85, but it's not like it does anything particularly out of the ordinary, is it? It's just a remote control car with a camera on it, basically.
And it's only being set up here so it can come back in the like coda at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was alright with it. I didn't mind it.
Stupid. I just thought it was...
So, microchips. That's what the plot is this time.
Yes.
It's modern.
Well,
Silicon Valley, all that. What Saul was saying about feels like a contemporary sort of film. They talk about electromagnetic pulses and computers. And, It's like, computers.
And it set up a nice plot where it was like, okay, he's doing something with chips and he's making horses go faster. Okay, so that's right. But it was obviously going to lead up to something with bigger stakes than that. And I thought that was nice. I thought it was a nice progression. Not to jump too far ahead, but I did definitely, like at the halfway point, after the horse story had kind of gone away, I was just like, I've lost. I've lost track of what's happening and I don't care. Which always seems to happen with Bond films. Like I can go so far and then it's just like, why is this so long?
I think it's because a lot of these Roger Moore ones are structured the same, where it is like the plot starts being about one thing and it's relatively inauspicious or sort of low stakes, and then halfway through the film Bond uncovers that that was just one part of the thing is the ultimate
all along.
Yeah. Yeah.
When's the really awkward chase scene with Grace Jones?
On the Eiffel. You're gonna have to narrow that down.
Yeah, that's quite early on.
Isn't there one up front?
There's one on the Eiffel Tower towards the beginning of the film, where Bond meets up with Monsieur Aubergine, the most ridiculously stereotypical Frenchman on film.
What are you talking about? My name is John Malkovich.
So I mean, we've got the whole MI6 lot go to the races, and then Bond is sent off to Paris. And it's around here that we are introduced to the villains: Christopher Walken as Max Zorin and his henchwoman Mayday, played by Grace Jones. I mean, even though Christopher Walken is 42. I still think these guys come across as like young, hip characters compared to sort of what we've had previously.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Well,
So.
can I ask what the deal is with Christopher Walken being in this film?
Well,
Because my understanding with James Bond films is they seem to cast relatively unknown actors in all the roles and discover people. They don't seem to cast established actors.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen an established actor in a James Bond film before.
Oh yeah, because normally they do like you say, they go to sort of like unknowns, or they go to sort of like foreign films, and they'll cast someone who is like a lot of the villains, like the guy that played Drax in Moonraker. He's like an established French actor. He's been in many French films, and that's normally sort of what they do. But here, Oscar winner Christopher.
Well, that's it. He was an established lead man in a number of well-respected and successful films before this. So it feels very weird to add him into the mix.
Well, do you know who was originally sought after for the part?
Is this the one with David Bowie?
Yes.
Ooh.
David Bowie was.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, and he said, "Do you know the story about him and Roger Moore?"
Did they fuck each other?
Well, well,
Mick Jagger.
like David Bowie was asked about like why he turned down the role, and he said it was something along the lines of I'd just be spending 6 months watching my stunt double fall off a cliff, and that was he was just very disinterested in it. And then there was this story, and I don't know how much of like urban legend this is, but the story goes that in the early 80s, David Bowie like bought a house, a fancy mansion somewhere in England, and one of his neighbours was Roger Moore, who would like come over at like 7:00 in the evening, and he'd like say, "Oh, hello, I'm Roger Moore," and Dave was, "Oh, hello," and they'd have a few drinks and chats, and like, "All right, well, that's nice, goodbye." But then Roger Moore would come back the next day at the same time, and he wouldn't realise that he was telling the same stories over and over again. He just had this bank of anecdotes.
Just a lonely old drunk.
And legend has it that it got to a point where David Bowie was turning the lights out and pretending that he wasn't home because Roger Moore kept coming around every day.
Couldn't he just send his butler down to be like, "Oh, David's out at the moment"?
Well,
I'm pretty sure he has. I'm pretty sure he had staff. David Bowie.
Anyway,
that later years. Yeah.
That is urban. I think that's urban legend. I don't know if that's true or not. But what is true is that Roger Moore hated filming with Grace Jones.
Oh, really?
I read his autobiography, and the line that he dedicates to her says something along the lines of, it's like, if you've got nothing good to say about someone, don't say anything at all, and that's how I feel about Grace Jones. And then later on, he makes a comment about one of his co-stars was playing very loud pop music in her trailer and distracting him. So yeah, he's been quite open about the fact that he didn't like her.
If you were going to pick two people who were going to get on, I mean, that's not what you go for, is it?
She played a prank on him where there's that bit later on in the film.
She sent him a dead rat in the mail just to get into character. Lots of used condoms hung around this trailer.
There's that really cringy bit later on where he's in bed and he's sort of inviting her in, and Grace Jones has this like robe on, and she drops the robe, and
big cock.
And as like a practical joke, she was wearing like a big like strap-on dildo. So when
cocks are always funny.
Yeah, yeah. But apparently Roger
that does explain the look on his face in that scene.
It's very awkward, isn't it? Anyway, I'm jumping way ahead here.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Grace Jones, though. I mean, I know it's kind of obvious, but doesn't she just look like she looks so hard, like she would be like hard to the touch.
She's very striking, though. I think she's a great addition to the film in terms.
I mean, I don't really know what Grace Jones is.
I assume she didn't do much
acting. I think she did singing. I presume she was a model because she's sort of tall and very striking.
Yeah, very angular,
sort of
chiseled looks.
All of the above, I think, but I'm pretty sure she was sort of most known for being a pop star in the 80s, along sort of like Madonna lines, very outrageous, and yeah, she's just like so striking, and she still to this day doesn't look any different. She's still quite a remarkable, very fit, very attractive person. And here, I agree. I think she's great casting, and even though I think this is probably one of the weaker films in the series, she is one of the more iconic villain.
Don't give it away.
We'll get to it in the wrap up. We'll get to it in the wrap up. But
it just seemed like a very Calvin-y movie.
Well, Well, we'll talk about it later, but yeah. I mean, I love her as Mayday. I think she's fantastic. And, she's one of those characters who every time they've got a video game, Mayday is one of the multiplayer characters, along with, like, Jaws and Oddjob. She's just so iconic.
Yeah, she's a great presence. You know that scene where she's, like, doing karate with Christopher Walken?
Oh, yeah.
Is that an appropriate leotard to wear for physical activity? It just seems like it would be more impractical than anything else.
I don't know.
Did we need to see that? Just quite risque. But she gives Roger Moore the business, I guess.
Yep. She's on top.
I liked her. I must say she was very awkward in a lot of the action scenes. The note I made about when she first appeared on the Eiffel Tower is that was such an awkward chase. I don't know. Oh. I've got a dog with me. I've got a dog with me, and he likes to wheeze sometimes.
The fuck is that?
Why have you got a dog with you?
Why is it making a noise that's not a dog noise?
It sounds like a duck.
Because he's a fucking pedigree, and they don't work right, do they?
Oh no! What have you done to it?
Nothing.
It just does that
just
sometimes.
Necked it.
It just went silent.
Yeah. Just snapped its neck.
Nice and quick. Nobody suffered.
Right. Oh yeah, you were talking about the Eiffel Tower, the awkwardness of the action.
Yeah. I have to say as well, I know it happens a lot in this franchise. I can't stand it. I fucking hate this obsession James Bond as a franchise has with characters just spontaneously generating parachutes they weren't wearing 10 seconds ago. What's that about? Why don't they...
Dramatic leap into the sky.
Otherwise, you
they
don't
weren't
have that...
just killing themselves.
You don't have that moment of surprise then. Yeah, and it's like, oh. If we saw Grace Jones running away from the Butterfly concert, whatever that was, with a parachute on her back, we'd know what she was going to do.
That's classic French
But the surprise isn't, oh, she was wearing a parachute. The surprise is, oh, she wasn't wearing that parachute 5 seconds ago.
Why do Bond villains go to such extreme measures to kill people in like bizarre ways, like poison butterfly net, whatever it is, fishing line, fake butterfly? Like, because it's not like she does it and then like everyone's like, what the fuck happened? We have no idea. She may as well have pulled out a gun and shot him in the face and run off. Like, everyone saw what she did. Cover your face, yeah, fair enough. And then she gets away and it's fucking Max Zorin, is that his name?
Yeah.
Max Zorin actually driving the getaway boat himself.
With no cover on his face at all.
Yeah, I wonder where that woman that was running away went to. I don't know, let's have a look where her parachute goes. So inconspicuous.
I have to say that the film pretty swiftly after introducing him, from what I remember, moves into that bullshit that all these films do, where James Bond like goes for a weekend break with the villain and they sort of have lots of two-handed, like backhanded insults back and forth and little jabs, and it's all very passive-aggressive. And I'm fucking sick of it. It's so boring. It wasn't interesting the first time they did it, and they do it in every single film, and every single time they do it, the film stops dead in its tracks.
Well, that was it. I put a note saying, like, what's the point of going undercover if you're basically going to walk up to the bad guy and accuse him of murder?
Yeah, exactly.
Because what does it? He goes up to and he says, "I heard you like butterflies that kill people by stabbing them in the face," or something like that. It basically just calls him right out. It's like, oh, well, don't draw attention to yourself.
And then they have a race on some horses. What's that about? What is that?
Yeah, well, James Bond is trying to keep up his cover of being interested in purchasing some well-bred horse. So obviously he has to try it out, and then they have this whole like wacky race.
That's what I mean. What is that about? When it gets to the point that it gets to, he might as well just turn around and like shoot James Bond's horse in the head. Like it's
yeah,
because the end result of this is Christopher One goes, well, I know who you are, and I'm getting rid of you, I'm going to kill you. So why don't you just kill him? Why don't you just because it's not like, oh, we need to kill him in a way that makes it look an accident. Because they don't even bother putting him in the front seat of the car when they push it into the lake. It's like, at least make it look like they drove in.
But this is just a trope. I mean, I think there's only like one Bond villain to ever call out, and it was Drax in Moonraker, where he says something along the lines of, "You thwart every attempt I make to give you an amusing death," or something like that.
Yeah, that was
They all
like
do
that.
it. It's something with all of them. Because it wouldn't be as interesting if he just tried to shoot him.
So we've already got to the point where Patrick Macnee is dead.
I love him and Roger Moore together in this film, by the way. I just think that
They
they've got
do
great
have
chemistry.
a nice bit of chemistry.
Yeah, I
and-
like that, actually. I did like them, yeah.
because they are playing kind of man and servant. I did have a question, though. Is Patrick Macnee's character... He says at the beginning, it's like, oh, in all my years of horse training, I've never seen... He's a horse trainer, right? And so
yeah.
they brought him along as an expert horse trainer. So why is he, like, in charge of going undercover as a spy? Why is he a spy or is he a horse trainer?
He's also a government agent. So, yeah. Who better
So he just
to...
does horse training on the side? What?
Well, they say he's Sir Godfrey Tibbet, so he must have done, like, something of note to be knighted. He must be some kind of a public figure in some way. You would have thought that
hereditary,
if he was such a good racehorse trainer, going to this, weekend getaway, whatever it is, where it's just all about the horses, someone somewhere would be like, "Oh, hello, Sir Godfrey, I didn't realise you were in town."
Well, that's it. But that's why, like, he was like, oh, I can use my connections to get you an invite. He's not going himself. I thought he was going to be there with Bond, like, as another horse guy. And then he's, like, undercover as the chauffeur. I think it was just one of those things they didn't think about at all.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, it'll be funny if he's the chauffeur.
Yeah, exactly. But I do like those two together. I think it's a shame that he's not around for longer.
Yeah. Well, this was the point when I started to lose interest. After that whole bit with at the house, the setup to that, and then they're at the house, that whole weekend thing. I was engaged. I was like, yeah, they're going down here. They figured this out. Blah blah blah. And then they sort of end all that, and it goes off into something else. And I was just like, whatever.
To San Francisco.
If you say so, yeah.
Well, what do you mean if I say... The Golden Gate Bridge is, like, in about 10
that's
minutes
right,
of the final running time of the
That's
film.
true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah. Because it becomes something much more then, because it turns out that Max Zorin is wanting to create an earthquake in order to destroy Silicon Valley.
I don't know if I looked away or something, but all of a sudden, Roger Moore was in a woman's bedroom and she had a gun on him. And I think I was expected to know who she was.
Oh, he met her at the party earlier on. The Bond girl you're talking about, Tanya Roberts.
Yeah, and I was just like, who the fuck is this? All the women in these things look the same.
Oh, I
Apart
don't
from
know
Grace
about that.
Jones.
This one is particularly notable because of how young she is compared to him. I think Roger Moore.
Well, yeah, but that's
films
because
ago.
he's become older since the last film. That's
No, but even in the last film was only 2 years prior, and they had a much more age-appropriate Bond girl in there for him.
Yeah.
Whereas this new one is like, I think Roger Moore said something along the lines of, he realised he was too old for the part when he realised that this lady's mother was younger than him. So she's like 25 or something ridiculous like that. But no, he meets her at the Zorin weekend horse getaway.
Yeah, I
earlier
missed
on.
that because he also gets introduced to some woman called Genuflex, and
Oh, yeah.
like that went nowhere, and so it's just all these characters. I was just like, I don't know who anybody is. And then he's suddenly got this woman's got a gun on him, and I'm like, who the fuck? And then she's called Stacey Sutton. I was like, well, that's not a euphemism for anything, unless I'm missing something. So she's obviously not a Bond girl.
Sutton,
What's-
Mutton, don't know.
Stacey Sutton is not a sexy name. What's going on?
No, but it's alliteration.
Is that enough?
I don't know, really. Maybe not. They're not. No, they didn't really try. I mean, they spent all their efforts on Jenny Flex, I think.
And then she's barely in it.
I think that's the best Bond name, the best Bond girl name out of the
Jenny
franchise.
Flex.
Yeah, it's the only one that works as like a sort of pun. I mean, Flex isn't a
What
surname.
about Christmas Jones? Makes perfect sense.
I will say, I would much prefer this relationship between Bond and the girl if they'd gone down more of a paternal angle with it, like especially with this being Roger Moore's last one. I think it would have been something, and he does have these scenes with her where he's like making her quiche, and she's like falling
He doesn't
asleep.
shag her.
Well, not at first anyway. Like she like falls asleep drunk on bed, and he just like covers her up, and just how he's playing it as well. It's just they don't have any kind of sexual chemistry between each other. He just sort of feels like, oh, I'm just looking after you. You don't really know what you're doing. And I wish that they'd have gone down that angle instead of trying to keep him the same sort of womanizing fella, because it just looks like, she's out with her dad.
Just a quick side thing that I've just looked up, and it's not relevant. I just looked up Alison Doody, who played Jenny Flex.
Oh, yes.
To see if she'd done anything else. And she's in Taffin.
Yeah. She's the one who shouldn't be living there.
Maybe you shouldn't be living here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's her. And she's also the Nazi in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Elsa.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Anyway, there you go. Quite a career. So, I did say, of course Bond would make a quiche, the crappiest food. Yeah, what's all that about? Yeah. It's just so weird. Like, why isn't he making her a martini or something? Like, what's happened to Bond? Oh, he's got old. That's what's happened to him. It's like Bond, we've got to a point where Bond is just like, shall we stay and have a quiche?
Well,
Time to move on.
In the books,
give me a young man.
In the books, he talks about like how scrambled eggs and like bacon, and he likes all the English breakfast stuff. It's like his favorite meal.
Yeah, but scrambled eggs is good food. Quiche is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I don't think he's ever cooked a quiche that I can read in the books.
How long does it take to prepare and cook a quiche from scratch? Because I suspect it's a good sort of hour and a half.
Probably.
So they were just chatting in that time.
And they have I can't remember how many bottles of wine they have on the table, like at the end of their night. It's either 2 or 3, but either way, both of them have had like a whole bottle of red wine. They'd be feeling so like bloated.
Oh, Bond wouldn't even touch the sides. She's drunk. That's why she falls asleep.
She'd have the shits the next day.
she's got the quiche splatters.
Doesn't egg do the opposite?
Oh no, I meant more about the wine.
Oh,
but yeah, that's why you need all the wine with the egg, so it balances each other out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then we have really awkward fight. Have you noticed that like pretty much all the fight scenes that Roger Moore is in with like the heavies, the villains,
maybe that's why
unnamed henchmen.
Maybe that's why the chase is so awkward at the start. Maybe it's Roger Moore.
Oh, it is. That's what we were saying. Yeah, because they've had to age up the goons. So all the goons in this one are sort of like 40-year-old plus.
All these stuntmen coming out of retirement. One last gig.
and that's why the fight scenes just have like no energy. It's clearly not Roger Moore for most of them. Like from the waist up, it's probably him. But if you have to see him like run around or do anything, it's probably not him. It's just really. It's just really weird. I find it a really interesting, strange film because on the one hand, it just feels this bloated, old, sluggish elements, but then it's also got people like Grace Jones and Tanya Roberts and Christopher Walken and this plot about computers and microchips and stuff and all this young stuff, and it's a really weird hodgepodge.
My next note baffles me because it's probably been a week or so since I watched this film. The bubbles tickle my Tchaikovsky. Is that an exact quote?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Who says that? And in what context?
It's the Soviet lady, the KGB agent, who Bond goes to the bathhouse.
He goes and shags someone for no obvious reason.
Yeah, no, she just sort of pops up because she's trying to.
I'll tell you what happened.
Tape.
Yeah, she gets a tape and she runs off. She shags him, finds the tape, runs off. And then it ends up not being the right tape. I didn't know what tape it was. I didn't know why she was getting it. I didn't know what evidence was supposed to be on it. I don't know if they did anything about it afterwards. I had no idea what was going on with that at all, except she was KGB.
Yes.
And that's probably bad.
Yes. And General Gogol makes a reappearance, if you remember him. The Soviet head guy.
No.
Nope. Okay, well, moving on.
Now, the next bit I know, they go up to see her boss, because she works for the council or something, and they're getting planning permission.
Yes.
And they go to see her boss, and Christopher Walken's there, and then he shoots the boss and sets them on fire.
Yeah.
That's basically what happens.
Yes.
So then they come out, and the police, quite sensibly want to question them. And they can't imagine why.
I love how Bond has so many aliases in this one. He's James St. John Smythe in
St. John Smith.
Yeah. In the Weekend Getaway, and then he goes by the name of James Stock, I think, and poses as a journalist, and then he's
No, it's because he works for the Financial Times, you see.
That's it.
So his stocks. It's called James Stock.
Oh, that never occurred to me. Yeah, good point.
He's always James though, because he's not quite clever enough to remember his first name as well.
But then it's like, no wonder the police want to interview you, because Stacey's like, he's James Stock of the Financial Times, and then he's like, oh no, actually I'm James Bond, and the police were quite reasonably confused.
Hang on, if he had been James Stock of the Financial Times, is that a good enough thing where they go, oh, fair enough, you can go free, sir. You're not worried about these dead bodies in this fire.
I don't like this bumbling sheriff as much as Sheriff Pepper from a few films ago.
Not racist enough for you, is he?
I mean, no, he isn't. He's not very funny, but he does do a good later on when his car's getting squished. He does a proper full on like, oh, you.
Does he throw his hat on the floor and then stamp on it?
He's not far off. He does do a proper like grits his teeth like. Oh. Yeah, that whole chase on the fire engine as well is.
It feels like this is supposed to be the big dynamic. Oh, really? It feels like it's supposed to be a big dynamic action sequence. Yeah. Conceptually great, practically crap, because it just felt so tired. It's just. It felt like it was just going through the motions. And then they have a raise the bridge moment, and they're going to have to do a jump over the bridge.
I did like that.
It kind of passes by without even noticing.
That was like the Blues Brothers.
Well, the bit, it feels like we should have a big fire truck jumping over the bridge thing, and obviously it was either just not possible or not. Yeah, they couldn't get it to spin. So they just they just get to the bridge before it opens. It's like, oh, okay. And then the police crash to give us a bit of back. Yeah, it just felt so tired and slow.
Even the gags aren't especially. I mean, he's like swinging around on the ladder on the back of the thing, which I think is all well and good. But then he's like knocking like hats off people in convertibles, and they like rip off like a mobile home or something that some people are having sex in, and it's
just the back of his truck is shagging some prostitute.
Yeah, and in all this, Stacey is just like the most ineffectual. Like, I know that she's like a geologist, isn't she? I think that's what her job title.
Oh yes, that's right. She was a geologist. That's what it was. Yeah. Which I liked, because that was like, oh, she's got like a real job. She's not just like, my dad was rich, so I'm just hanging around these rich people.
Yeah.
I mean, she was like, my dad's rich, so he paid for me to become a geologist.
Do we buy her though? Like, is this part? Like, people always pick on Denise Richards for not being the most convincing nuclear physicist, but I'm not sure that Tanya Roberts delivers these lines about geology very convincingly.
I suppose.
It's the key geological lock and all that stuff. It sounds like she's just reading a cue card.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfectly adequate James Bond acting.
I mean, to be honest, like, in a Bond film, the fact that she speaks English is a plus.
Exactly.
Really low bar.
Oh, but all of her screeching is so annoying, especially in that burning elevator shaft where she seems to genuinely think that James isn't coming back for her. Like,
yeah, he's just fucked off. I'd believe that of James Bond, though. It's like, sorry, darling, the mission is more important.
Yeah.
Just like, I've shagged her and like ditched her in a fire. Like, it would have been good if he'd gone up on top of the lift and he'd come back with a quiche. Don't know why I'm laughing at myself. Not funny at all. Oh, something about the quiche really bothered me.
I think it's correct to bother you. I think it should bother everyone who watches this film.
It's just so off-brand with Bond, and it's not even presented as a kind of, hey, there's hidden depths to Bond. It's just like, oh yeah, basic training, make a quiche. It's like if you're in the get lost in the jungle, you need to be able to make a quiche.
We're sort of coming towards the climax now, because after this, the Bond and Stacey head over to Zorin's mine, where he's...
This was fun. This is all like Wario Goldmine, wacky, silly stuff happening.
Silly stuff. He gets a fucking submachine gun and massacres a load of people.
Yeah.
Just completely cold-bloodedly.
That was something that Roger Moore really didn't like, apparently. I mean, he's getting old now, I suppose. He's not as used to, he doesn't like his violence and sex and swearing anymore. But yeah, but this is sort of a very, this is a Bond villain committing mass murder of his own men. In such a gleeful way. I don't think we've ever seen...
The thing is, it's like, it's one thing if he was like, oh, push the button, I don't care who's down there anymore. Like, blow it up. Like, that's... But he's, like, gleefully murdering everyone. It's unnecessary, and it is definitely a step over a line.
Yeah, I think so. And how long they spend on it as well. Like, how many shots are dedicated to just these poor men being mown down and then being electrocuted because water's flooding in and all this. It's, I
didn't mind it.
Brutal.
It bothered me in that it felt unproductive.
Interestingly, Zorin turns on Mayday here and doesn't seem to really care whether she lives or dies. He sends her after Bond and Stacy. It's very much an order, go get them. But then he has no interest in really her coming back or anything. Presumably, if everything had gone to plan and she'd been with him, she would have gone up on the blimp with him. But he just decides, let her drown.
She's been tainted by Roger Moore now. He doesn't want her anymore. Like, you smell like old men.
But this does mean that she turns. She is immediately like, screw him.
But I believe that. Like, I believe she was like, I never really liked him anyway. It was just a paycheck. Yeah. And it was a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy all this stuff in the mine. I think it's actually genuinely quite engaging action stuff.
Oh yeah, I like all this.
So then there's a bit where there's a bomb on a little skateboard thing.
Yeah.
And there's a brake on it, but it's broken. So she has to hold the brake manually so that they can actually get the bomb out of the cave on time before it goes off. Why didn't she just take her top off and tie it around the handle or something? She's pretty comfortable getting her clothes off.
There was no time.
Yeah, there was.
No, there wasn't.
There's loads of time. James Bond's like, oh, what are you doing? And they have a little conversation.
Yeah, but that's while she's already moving out.
Yeah, so take her top off while she's moving, wrap it round, then jump, run.
But that would have.
Why didn't Roger Moore take his top off?
Yeah.
Why didn't James Bond take his fucking belt off?
Yeah, he could have taken his corset off and put it around this.
Anyway, then she blows up. And...
Really cool death, by the way. I think it's really cool how she comes out cackling and then he's flying by in his blimp and
I think that blimp is legitimately cool. This is the first time a James Bond gadget vehicle thing's made me think, oh, that's good. And you know why it is? It's because it's a real thing. You can tell it's an actual blimp that they're just flying around. It's not just shitty little special effect. I think that makes all the difference. I
think in quite a few shots it is. So
No, I know, but yeah, in enough of. Yeah, there's definitely a real blimp there. That's kind of what I mean. Yeah. It's not just made up bollocks.
It's very maneuverable.
Yeah.
Sneak right up behind someone without them even noticing.
Oh God, when he gets Stacy, God. But the fight up on the Golden Gate Bridge is very hampered by the fact that Roger Moore is performing a lot of the shots against rear projection, and him and Christopher Walken. I mean, obviously in real life it was Christopher Walken and an axe against 57-year-old Roger Moore. There's not much competition, really.
I mean, look, I quite enjoyed all this sequence, but I have to say what really annoyed me was that Christopher Walken was insistent that he wasn't going to use the sharp bit on the axe. He was going to whack James Bond with the blunt side.
Yeah.
Why was that? He could have killed Bond easily, but he just decided, no, I'm just going to smack him with it a bit.
He's nuts.
Don't want to get blood on me. And then anyway, he hubris. He falls to his death. Now, what is this film's obsession? Did they buy like a new dummy on the James Bond budget? And they were like, well, look, we've got to get our use out of it.
Full of straw. Should we give this dummy like realistic weight and joints? Nah. Just
it worked for Monty Python, so it's fine.
It's like all the old Sean Connery toupees stuffed it with.
Yeah, it's not very convincing. I think it's even worse earlier on when Zorin is kicking out one of his non-financers from his airship, and you can just see the limbs are just flapping around in the breeze. It's really bad.
There's a lot of nice shots up on this bridge. I think there's enough actual footage of the bridge to make it quite an exciting scene, even though a lot of it's, like you say, ropey back projection.
Yeah. I mean, they did get, like, a couple of stuntmen up there to tussle around a bit, and that all looks quite good, I think.
And then that's it, innit? He kills him. The end.
Yeah.
And
Stacey Sutton's there, not being any help at all.
No.
She's still wearing her heels at this point.
And then Q is like a full-on pervert in this one. Like he's like, am I forgetting something? But I don't remember Q like being upset that he doesn't get to watch James Bond fuck someone before. I'm pretty sure in the past he's kind of been like, oh God, he's at it again. Oh, that's 007. I'll go and have a cup of tea. Whereas in this one, he's like, pants, socks, tights. Well,
it's all changed after that time when those women in a hot air balloon attacked him and took him as their sex slave.
And he slowly finds his way to the shower, and then he just sits there like, and then James Bond's like, oh fuck off, and then he actively goes like, he does an annoyed look like, oh, I was watching that. It's just weird.
I don't really like it. Did you notice there's some dialogue like it's very faint in the mix as the little contraption things going through Stacey's house, and Bond and Stacey are in the shower, and there's just like some mumbling from them.
Yeah,
listen to it.
More ADR. This film's full of it. They added loads of lines, so there's her going like, "Would you like some of that quiche from before? I put it in the fridge." No, we'd better hop in the shower and wash.
There's something along the
I've
lines.
got quiche all down my front. Let's hop in the shower together.
Something along the lines of, oh, can you grab the soap? And then, ooh, that is not the soap. Yeah, I think this ending.
It's my cock.
I thought they were making like a prison joke, and then yeah.
I think this ending would have been much better, especially considering that Roger Moore's like contract was up at Moonraker, and everyone after that was just like an add-on. So they must have known that this was going to be his very last one. I would have loved it if they'd have just gone down that paternal angle, and you could have still had her coming on to him at the end, and then he's like, nah.
You could take a Viagra and have a heart attack.
Well, yeah.
What I should have done is she like comes round with her mother. She's like, "Oh, James, I wanted to introduce my mother because she wants to say thank you for saving my life and all that." And then he's just like, he's sat on the settee, and they sit either side of him and kiss one.
No. Exactly that. She's like, "Oh, this is my mother. I want you to meet her." And he goes, "Oh!" And he reaches down and pulls a lever on the sofa, and it's an ejector seat, and he flies off into the sky. And then a parachute he wasn't wearing 5 seconds ago appears on his back, and it's the Union Jack.
She brings the mother in. The mother goes, "Oh, I've made you a quiche to say thank you." It's like, oh my God, my perfect woman. You should have shacked up with Moneypenny. That's how you close this off. Just finally bangs Moneypenny, and she's like disappointed and realizes it wasn't worth.
Yeah, she's like, oh.
It wasn't worth the 25 years of waiting.
Yeah, sometimes the anticipation is the fun bit.
Yeah, but so this is the end of an era then for the series. End of Roger
How
Moore.
long has Moore been Bond now?
It will have been 7 films and
How long is that? 15 years?
12 years, I think. I think Live and Let Die is 1973. Yeah, and then this is 1985. So 12 years, 7 films. Not a bad run at all.
I felt like this film, it felt like this should have been the first of a new Bond. It felt separate from the other Roger Moore films. It just tonally felt like its own thing.
Yeah.
I have to say, my feeling at the end of this film was one of optimism for the future of this franchise. And I can actually see myself starting to enjoy these if they continue in this direction.
I was going to say, you have been very positive about this one.
Yeah. I didn't mind this one. I'm surprised it's not one of your favourites, honestly. For me, it was all the same old shit, but it's just like, there's just something about the more modern filmmaking techniques that I perceived that made the action sequences more enjoyable and all the dumb shit just kind of more enjoyable. And then you've got Christopher Walken in there. You've got some like you've got a robot dog in there. Yeah, I came away thinking it was one of the best Bond films I've seen, which isn't a high bar.
Yeah. See, for me, it was like, same old, but slower and more tired.
But really energetic and modern in other aspects, I think. It's a really odd one. I mean, it flip-flops for me depending on mood. It is really a mood-dependent one. There are times when I've watched it and I've been quite bored, and then there's other times where I just sort of like have a good time with it. This was one of the good times, though. Like, I'm very much aware that it is so flawed, but I enjoy it nonetheless.
What would you rate it?
Well, I give it a 6 out of 10.
Oh,
which is very generous for me with James
after
Bond.
all that.
Well, yeah, I've never the highest rated Bond film I've given a rating to is a 7 out of 10.
For
And
Goldfinger, was it?
Dr. No and Goldfinger, I gave both of those a 7.
I thought this one was at least going to join those.
And I'll tell you now, this is my third favourite Bond film that I've seen.
There we go.
Like right behind those two. So I wouldn't be surprised if I end up enjoying the next one properly.
Oh my god.
We'll see about that.
It's exciting.
I gave this film a 5, which is pretty much what I gave in all the Roger Moore films. Just so middling and average. My best Roger Moore is Moonraker. I gave that a 6 for anyone who's counting.
I'm stunned that the pair of you, your favourite Roger Moore films, have been 2 of his most critically derided. Moonraker
Which
and
one was the one with all the semen?
Is A View to a Kill? I did miss the presence of just like a big load of salty semen in this film. Because there's one or two, you can see a few semen just dotted around, like off in the distance when they're up on the bridge. But
anyway, Calvin.
Well, it's only a 7 from me. I always find it very difficult because I don't like rating Bond films necessarily. Because I've seen them so many times, I don't even need to watch them. I just sort of know them. But each time I do watch them, they sort of go up and down the rankings a little bit. I feel like if I were to look at all of the ratings that I've given of that film series throughout this podcast, it might not necessarily gel up with like how I would rank them necessarily.
yeah.
But I think for this one, it's probably a 7. It's never been an absolute favourite, but I think there's a lot of fun in it. It's a really weird film, but I like it all the more for that.
I think that's part of what did it for me. It just felt a bit more playful and willing to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and it's remarkable because it's the same creative team, like, largely. Like, this is the 3rd out of 5 films with the same director, like, a lot of the same crew, and so it's bizarre how they can feel so different to each other.
So you say this is one of the least well-regarded
Oof,
Roger
yes.
Moore films? Really? Yeah. I just assumed it was one of the better ones, like one of the more popular ones.
I think it might even be the lowest rated out of the whole series on like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
Really?
I'm looking quickly. Moonraker has the slightly lower.
Okay. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. I knew it was going to be one of those two.
6.4 out of 10 isn't... Yeah, it's not a bad rating. It's not a great rating, but...
Well, compare it to the other Roger Moore films. Octopussy is 6.6, Fiora is only 6.8, Man with the Golden Gun 6.8, Spy Who Loved Me 7.1.
Not a lot in it.
Die Another Day 6.1 is the worst one.
Okay, there we go.
So yeah, Moonraker's the second lowest,
Wow.
View to a Killer's the third lowest, according to this.
You James Bond fanboys are worse than those fucking DC maniacs. You won't let Die Another Day fall below a 6. That's insane.
But just before we finish this, I am curious to know, now that we are done with Roger Moore and Sean Connery, bar Never Say Never Again, but whatever, out of the two of them, who do you like the most?
As a person,
As James
neither of them
Bond.
making a very good argument.
If I were to watch a film that wasn't James Bond and see the cast pop up at the start, I would be more excited if it said Sean Connery. I'd be like, oh, cool. Whereas if it said Roger Moore, I'd be like,
Roger Moore.
yeah, I'd be
I
interested.
didn't realise he'd ever done anything else.
Yeah.
This isn't a Bond film.
Having said that, if I were like in charge of, let's say we've got some amazing future technology and we can just do all the actors digitally, because I mean, that's where we are now. Go and watch the start of the new Terminator film. It is astonishing what they're doing with de-aging and shit now. So say I was making a James Bond film and I had a choice between Sean Connery's estate and Roger Moore's estate are both signed off on. I know Sean Connery's still alive, but I mean, this is going to be at least a year from now. So their estates have signed off on their likenesses, so I've got a choice. I think I'd go digitally recreated Roger Moore. So I think that means that's more what I think of when I think of James Bond. Does that make sense? Yeah, he's more of the definitive James Bond in my head.
That's cool. I kind of suspected it would be that way.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Oh, really?
No.
I obviously like Sean Connery's
I'm
films
going
more,
Lazenby.
though, because I like Dr. No and Goldfinger the most, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean Connery is more Bond to me, I think. I definitely would prefer to see that Bond in a proper film, like a good film. Whereas I think you can't get Roger Moore's Bond in a good film because Roger Moore would be in it.
Honestly, I think when all is said and done, and I might be very wrong here, but I think I'm going to come away feeling like Pierce Brosnan is the definitive what I think of as James Bond.
Hooray.
But I don't know. It might end up being Timothy Dalton, so who knows?
Yeah, I think you're going to like the next couple.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from Timothy Dalton. I really don't.
We're actually, I probably have seen the Timothy Dalton Bond at some point or other, but I can't really remember. I don't have a picture of what Timothy Dalton Bond is. I do with all the others. So I'm quite interested in what we're about to get to as well.
Okay, cool.
I will. I want to ask though, let's go back to the mid '80s. You know, Roger Moore has passed on. He's he will still live for another 30 years, but you know, he's no longer with us. And we need to bring in a new Bond. Who do you get?
Ooh.
Well,
Who do you pass the mantle on to?
Well, they were trying to pass it on to Pierce Brosnan immediately after this. Do you know that?
Really? I didn't know that, no.
He was announced and everything, but then he had
It was Remington Steele, wasn't it?
That was it, yeah. He had like there was an option in his contract if they renewed it for another season, he obviously had to play it, and then they left it until the very last day.
It was all but cancelled, but my understanding is the press came out, Pierce Brosnan's going to be the new Bond, and they went, oh, that's a bit of people are now going to tune in and watch the new Bond on Remington Steele. We better give it another season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then Cubby Broccoli came out after they did that and said Remington Steele will not be James Bond, and that was it.
And then the producers of Remington Steele mysteriously died. And a horse head was left.
But yeah, there's some interesting Some interesting. Sam Neill was screen tested for the part.
Oh, he would have been great. He would have been
I
great.
can see that. Yeah. I can see that.
James Brolin was screen tested in for
too
Octopussy,
American.
actually.
1985. Who would I have gone with? So we want someone born in 1950 to
1945, 1950.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine him in a tux. Him being all suave and sophisticated. Yeah, that's good. Sorry, sir. This man. Yeah, but. Security.
Colin Firth.
He wouldn't have been. He would have been too young back then.
Well,
How old is he?
look these people up. Colin Firth was born in 1960, so yeah, he would only have been 25.
You can't do that.
Oh! You know what?
Yeah.
What
Steve
about
Guttenberg?
Alan Rickman?
No.
Completely right age, but he was completely not established as a film actor at the time.
Exactly.
But yeah, he's about the right age.
That's
isn't
the kind of actor you want to grab off the
he? Yeah,
stage.
you get a young, a thriving theatre actor. Yeah.
He's not attractive enough.
If you're going dark and gritty, which is what my understanding is the Timothy Dalton era Bond was, I feel like Alan Rickman would have fit that.
But he's not handsome.
He was quite a handsome man in 1985, wasn't he? His young, was he not?
I don't think so. I'd be more inclined. Jeremy Irons, I think, would have been a good, proper Fleming kind of.
Oh, you're right. Jeremy Irons would have been perfect. Yeah. That's spot on. Or Anthony Head.
Ooh.
That's like your budget, Jeremy Irons.
He absolutely must have been on a list and screen tested, and then they just went, nah.
He's about the right level as well, because they don't like to go
coffee
for...
advert.
Because they don't like to go for someone too, well-known or anything. But,
Yeah. I like this game. I don't think we're going to top Jeremy Irons, honestly. I think that's pretty spot on.
Rowan Atkinson.
Oh, he wouldn't make any sense in a Bond movie.
You do know that he's in one, don't you?
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, why not pop over to iTunes and give us a nice rating? It really does help us build our reputation and we would appreciate it. Any new listeners should know that we are working our way through the Bond series, slowly but surely, so do check out our back catalogue at dimreturns.com. All the previous Moore, Connery and Lazenby films are on there. If you would like to get in touch or have your say on any of the films that we talk about, then we are at dimreturnspod on Instagram and Twitter. Check us out and see you next week.